When it comes to the Skylanders games, the one that's always going to have a soft spot for me the most is Skylanders SWAT Force, which in my opinion has one of the best gimmicks out of all the games I played so far. It's just super unique when it comes to the other games, as 3 of them require separate toys just for their gimmicks to function, while the closest one to it is just bigger Skylanders that can interact with the map, open bigger chests, and have heroic challenges, which aren't even exclusive to them in that game. The swap gimmick not only makes almost every single Skylander with that gimmick useful, as you can swap the top and bottom halves until you get a combination that works, but it also introduces a multitude of mini-games and dual elemental gates sprinkled throughout the actual game that gives a reason to go out and collect all of them. And the dual elemental gates aren't even locked to SWAT Force characters. I'm talking about you, Trav Team, I will never live that down. Even though there's 16 SWAT Force members, which inevitably leads to 256 combinations, good god, there's only one SWAT Force member that I kind of view as a stinker, even if you swap out his parts. And that's Drilla. This was one of the first SWAT Force Skylanders I got after I bought the starter pack, and I still remember hating this guy with a passion when I was younger. His main attack, trash. His secondary attack, trash. His bottom half attack, pure garbage. But as I've gotten older, I've learned that he isn't as bad as I made him out to be. You just need to learn how the character works, kinda like champions in League of Legends. Please go watch that video, I put a lot of work into it. But as I've gotten older, I've slowly begun to notice the weird connection Skylands has to Monkey and Apes, and after doing more research, I learned that Primates have not only made in-game appearances before, i.e. the Stone Monkey and SWAT Force, but there's one of them that was actually a crossover character from a completely separate franchise. So today we're going to take a look at the many monkeys within Skylands. But before we jump in, I need to make a quick clarification. When it comes to the crossover character, I'm only going to be talking about his involvement in Skylands and not his previous games, because if I did, it would take way too long. And I have a life outside of this stuff that I can't really put on hold, so as compensation, I left a little video in the description that goes over a lot of it. So you can go watch that after this video ends. But with that out the way, let's hop straight into this.
If there's a drill, there's a way.
Now, you've already heard about a few of my thoughts on Drilla a second earlier, but there's actually another thing that I want to talk about when it comes to him, and that's his design itself, because it's really good. I also like that most of his body is a drill, and you can even see the drill bits on the top of his head, which kind of looks like tufts of hair. But with that out the way, let's take a look at his backstory and see what's going on here. Drilla used to be one of the many guards who protected the Drilla King of the Drilla Empire, which was once a large subterranean city of Skylands Pass located under a large sprawling jungle. Every 7 years, the king would select the bravest and strongest of the guard to become the next king, but during the last selection ceremony, a troll mining operation would infiltrate the kingdom, breaking through the ceiling above and kidnapping the king as they wanted to learn where the famed Drilla Diamond was located. Drilla would travel to the surface and pursue the trolls, risking it all to defeat them before returning home with the king of the Drillas in tow. And after witnessing his bravery, the king decided to choose Drilla as their new leader. But surprisingly, he wouldn't take the deal, and instead, he would return to the surface and join the Skylanders, knowing that he could protect more people. Now, as I was browsing through the bio and the wiki again and checking some of the references, it mentions him suspecting Boom Bloom's eagerness to join the Skylanders, and I kinda like that little detail, as it not only shows that he's still an active Skylander, or at least when Boom Bloom became a sensei, but it also adds another layer to his character as a person who's new to the world above, but not a person who's instantly willing to trust someone. Another thing that I want to inquire about is the Drilla Diamond, because as important as it is to the story, it isn't exactly explained, but hey, the trolls probably just wanted to steal it from the kingdom and probably sell it somewhere. And speaking of the Drilla Kingdom, I think it would have been an awesome Skylanders level if it ever got implemented into one of the games. The Skylanders exploring an abandoned underground city with a jungle theme would be an awesome opportunity to not only reuse a location from a Skylanders backstory, like they did with the Cloud Kingdom, which is the location that Lightning Rod grew up in, but it could also give us more insight into the kingdom itself. If I'm interpreting this correctly, the kingdom fell apart or was abandoned sometime between the time Drilla joined the Skylanders and the events of SWAT Force, which makes me wonder if there's any other Drilla out there besides him, and what exactly happened. The only real guess I have to why this is might have something to do with Drilla leaving, but I see that as highly unlikely since there's nothing really stopping the previous king from picking someone else. Unless he just left after becoming a king for a few minutes and nobody knew what to do, but I seriously doubt that he would care that little for his people back home since he's described as never one to think for himself. But with that all said and done, let's hop over to the next Skylander of today.
Monkey save, monkey doom!
Now, when it comes to all the Skylanders on the roster today, I think Fling Kong has to be one that people think about the least compared to the other two members for obvious reasons. He is literally standing next to a SWAT Force member and a crossover character. He is the most likely to be overshadowed by the other two Primates. But to be perfectly honest with you, I kinda like his design. Yes, his disc things are kind of on the nose, especially considering the fact that he's a Skylander of the air element, but everything else looks pretty good, especially his armor. I like how shiny it looks. But with that out the way, let's take a look at his backstory and see how he ended up on the Skylanders. Fling Kong was once a royal protector of a legendary monkey idol known as the Kubla Kha, and because of this role, he would seriously train in a martial art known as Monkaroo, which is a form of fighting in Skylands that uses the power of air. He was the most devoted student, always showing up to his training before everyone else and practicing until everyone had left, and one day, a group of well-armed and foul-smelling gorilla goos appeared near the temple that housed the idol, which was led by the infamous General Snot, who had heard stories of the idol, particularly that it was made of gold. They quickly seized control of the temple, almost taking the idol that resided with them before they found themselves face to face with Fling Kong. He would attack them using the full power of a Monkaroo master, and using his flying rug and discs, he defeated the gorilla goos with expertise and saved the idol. Soon afterwards, his actions would reach the ears of Master Eon, who would invite him into the Skylanders, and surprisingly, he would make an appearance in an IDW book, but not as a protagonist, but an antagonist. So let's briefly get into what's exactly happening here. After Deja Vu entered the final four of the Legendaries competition, she would get a chance to talk with the other contestants, which consists of Fling Kong, Fist Bump, and Trailblazer, who would almost immediately begin to belittle her because according to them, she wasn't in their league. Budget Monkey King, Edgy My Little Pony OC, and the living embodiment of a kidney stone are all talking down to an illusionist who just beat a woman with a flamethrower moments earlier. Anyways, after she gets a pep talk from Spyro, she returns to the ring where the final four-way fight begins, and the three decide that they're just gonna jump her to get her out the way. But during the fight, she creates three clones behind them and uses them to electrocute the group, Brock declaring her the winner of the competition before Fling Kong and the other two Skylanders apologized to her. Deja Vu getting a statue made of her next to the other statues of Skylanders and becoming a legendary. Now, I'm going to be honest and say I kinda don't like the direction they took these three in the comic, especially Fling Kong. He just doesn't seem like the character to act this brash and belittle others. But speaking of them, what is up with the Skylanders at this point? They're all just so mean-spirited to each other for like no reason, and it's just wild considering what I know and how they treat each other compared to other threats within Skylands. When Stump Smash had the chance to kill Chaos and end the nonsense, he was like, no, I can't, my moral, Spyro said I can't. But when Ghost Roaster turns against the organization, the first words out of Nightfall's mouth is light work, finish him. I know that these are two separate incidents and there's a lot of context behind both of them, but still, it would just feel weird not to point this out. Speaking of pointing things out, who is protecting the Kubla Kha now? Did he just abandon the temple? Like, what about the artifact you were protecting? Did another student take his place or did something else happen? But with that out the way, I think it's about time that we get into the last Skylander of today. Now, out of all the Skylanders that have graced this franchise, there has only been 4 that have come from a completely different franchise, and these are the crossover Skylanders, which consist of Dr. Neo Cortex, Smash Bandicoot, Bowser, and the topic of today's video, Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong has pretty much been one of the staple characters in the Mario franchise, and he's been part of it since it began back in the 80s, and surprisingly, I can't find a single thing on this guy's development, even outside of the wiki. The only story-related things there is his bio, which is pretty short all things considered, and a comic by the name of Unexpected Allies, and for the life of me, I just can't find the damn thing, or at least one that doesn't cost money. The closest I've gotten is a Twitter account that only has like 1 page, and after digging through its account for like 15 minutes trying to find the other pages, I just decided to read the wiki's description of events and pray that is correct. I know I'm gonna catch a few strays for this, but here we go. When Chaos cut off the connection between the portals and Skylanders superchargers, Mag's distress signal would not only reach across all of Skylands, but it would also stretch beyond dimensions. Donkey Kong's curiosity would lead him to finding a rift in his home jungle that linked the Marioverse and Skylands together, and he would attempt to explore it, which would lead him to eventually fall out into Skylands along with Bowser. And soon, the pair would be attacked by a group of pirates led by Captain Blubberbeard. Even though the two were enemies, they realized that it would be best if they worked together in this situation, and during the battle with the pirates, they would find two rift engines and touch them, which would transform the two into superchargers and allow them to push the pirates back and drive them away. After the fight, the two would be discovered by Roller Brawl and Eruptor, who would bring the two back to the academy where Buzz would explain to them what was happening and ask them for assistance. And while DK was enthusiastic and willing to help fight the darkness, Bowser was a little more hesitant, but would eventually agree to help, the two getting their own vehicles and becoming temporary Skylanders. Now, the biggest question I have concerning this backstory is how did Chaos shutting down the portals create rifts into other realities? And I think I have a good theory on why this happened. The best way to think about this is like a pipeline. Shutting down all the portals in Skylands probably screwed with the other worlds it was linked to. It's probably like blocking all the exits for a pipeline in a city. It built up a ton of pressure and a bunch of cracks began to appear. Wait a second, doesn't that mean the Mario-themed amiibos are real in the context of the Skylanders universe? Both Hammerslam Bowser and Turbocharged Donkey Kong work as amiibos, so it isn't really that far-fetched. Wait a second, doesn't that mean that all the other Nintendo properties are real as well? Like, Smash exists, so all the properties shown in that have all worked together at some point. But the lore of the Smash games is a rabbit hole mess from the outside that I don't have access to, so I'm just gonna put it down for now. Heck, they probably aren't even the Smash iterations of these characters, but it would be funny to say that Bayonetta is canon to Skylands on a technicality. But anyways, thank you for watching. Like always, hit the subscribe button if you enjoy content like this, share this around so I can grow as a channel, leave some comments down below to make the algorithm happy, and I will see you all in the next one.